When it comes to the often combustible relationship between headliners and their support acts, the gap between theory and reality is wide enough to park a tour bus in. In theory, support acts should provide the perfect warm-up, energizing the crowd before the main event. For the headliner, it's a chance to look magnanimous, giving a platform to up-and-coming talent. For the support act, it's a golden ticket to exposure, beaming their sound to a ready-made audience they'd otherwise struggle to access. In reality, however, the combination of clashing personalities, wildly differing expectations, and the occasional bruised ego can turn a dream gig into a backstage war zone. One only needs to dig into the annals of rock and roll to find a treasure trove of stories about headliners who couldn't stand their support acts. While some disputes were mere blips in the grander tour narrative, others became full-blown soap operas that overshadowed the music itself. What makes these stories endlessly fascinating isn't just the drama, but the underlying human frailties they expose: pride, insecurity, and a fair bit of plain old spite. Here are 5 infamous examples of bands who, for various reasons, couldn't stand the sight or sound of their opening acts. In early 1991, the Black Crowes found themselves on the cusp of rock superstardom. Their debut album, Shake Your Moneymaker, had been a commercial and critical success. Thanks in no small part to hits like She Talks to Angels and their cover of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle. It was a heady time for the band, whose rough-around-the-edges southern rock sound was winning them legions of fans. So when they were invited to open for ZZ Top on a 5-month tour, it seemed like the perfect springboard to take their careers to the next level. But Chris Robinson, the Crowes' outspoken frontman, had other ideas.
News headlines: Black Crowes thrown off the ZZ Top tour.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, of course I do. It was like we were fired.
From the outset, Robinson took issue with the tour's corporate sponsorship, particularly the prominent presence of Miller Brewing Company's branding.
The old arena there, and they used to have Miller beer banners. ZZ Top was sponsored by them, and we were really hardcore about our independence and rock and roll.
For Robinson, this wasn't just a mild inconvenience. It was an affront to his artistic integrity. It wasn't about the music, Robinson later fumed. It was just a commercial thing. We weren't there to sell beer, we were there to play rock and roll. Robinson didn't stop at private grumbling. During the Crowes' sets, he began making onstage remarks criticizing the sponsorship deal, much to the chagrin of ZZ Top's management. Things came to a head during a performance in Atlanta, the Black Crowes' hometown.
Yeah, she'll tell you she's a lover.
Facing mounting pressure from the headliner's camp, the band was unceremoniously dropped from the tour. ZZ Top's management made it clear the Crowes' attitude had crossed a line. Robinson, for his part, refused to back down. In later interviews, he characterized the incident as a fight for artistic freedom, claiming that ZZ Top's team had tried to censor what we were about.
Sing for this and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, if you keep it up, we're going to throw you off the tour. And
They did it.
I did it.
While the feud didn't seem to leave lasting scars, Robinson and ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons reportedly buried the hatchet years later. It remains a cautionary tale about what happens when artistic ideals clash with commercial realities. If the ZZ Top Black Crowes feud was rooted in lofty ideals, the tension between Motley Crue and Steel Panther was as down and dirty as you'd expect from the world of glam metal. Steel Panther, known for their tongue-in-cheek take on the genre's excesses, had built a reputation as both talented musicians and consummate satirists. Their live shows were equal parts blistering metal and laugh-out-loud comedy, a mix that endeared them to fans and set them apart from their peers. Not everyone, however, was laughing. In 2011, Steel Panther joined Motley Crue and Def Leppard on tour, a gig that should have been a career highlight. But according to Steel Panther drummer Styx Sardinia, the relationship soured almost immediately. I think they thought we were actually making fun of them directly, Sardinia later reflected. And I just got to chalk that up to their egos being too big, because nothing that we do has anything to do with them directly. The Crue, particularly drummer Tommy Lee and bassist Nikki Sixx, seemed to take Steel Panther's shtick personally. The animosity spilled into public view in subsequent years, with members of both bands trading barbs in interviews.
How are you guys doing here at the Key Club? What do you think of the ambiance here in the Inland Empire?
Steel Panther's satirical approach, it seemed, had hit a nerve in Motley Crue's notoriously thin-skinned lineup. Despite the bad blood, Steel Panther continued to grow their fan base, seemingly unbothered by their critics. Motley Crue, meanwhile, remained as divisive as ever, proving that even in a genre built on bravado, not everyone can take a joke. Few feuds in rock history are as infamous or bizarre as the one that erupted between Iron Maiden and Ozzy Osbourne during Ozzfest 2005.
Are you ready? We go crazy!
On paper, the pairing seemed like a match made in heavy metal heaven, two titans of the genre sharing the stage on one of the biggest tours of the year. But from the very beginning, tensions simmered beneath the surface, thanks largely to Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson's habit of speaking his mind. Dickinson, never one to shy away from controversy, took issue with various aspects of the tour, from its corporate sponsorship to Ozzy's reliance on teleprompters during performances. "We don't need a teleprompter," Dickinson reportedly quipped during one show, a not-so-subtle jab at Osbourne. He also made pointed remarks about reality television, a clear dig at the Osbournes, the wildly popular MTV show that had turned Ozzy's family into household names. Sharon Osbourne, who managed Ozzy and was fiercely protective of her husband, decided she'd had enough. During Iron Maiden's final Ozzfest set, the band's performance was sabotaged with repeated power cuts. As if that weren't enough, members of the audience, allegedly egged on by Sharon herself, began hurling eggs at the band. Dickinson and his bandmates soldiered on, but the damage was done. Ozzy, for his part, later distanced himself from the drama, claiming he had no idea what Dickinson had been saying until much later. If he didn't like the tour, he should have just left, Ozzy said. Sharon, however, was less forgiving, describing Dickinson's remarks as disrespectful and unprofessional. For Iron Maiden, the incident became a footnote in their storied career, but it remains a stark reminder of what can happen when egos collide in the high-stakes world of rock touring. By 1981, the Rolling Stones were firmly ensconced as rock royalty.
I saw her today at the reception.
While Prince was an up-and-coming artist with a handful of hits to his name. When the Stones invited Prince to open for them at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, it seemed like a golden opportunity for the young musician to reach a wider audience. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. Dressed in his signature flamboyant style, Prince took the stage to a crowd that was, to put it mildly, unwelcoming. Boos soon turned into thrown objects, and the abuse, both verbal and physical, was laced with racism and homophobia. Clearly rattled, Prince cut his set short and left the stage, vowing never to return to such an environment. The Stones, for their part, offered little sympathy. Mick Jagger, ever the pragmatist, shrugged off the incident, saying, "If you're going to be a big headliner, you've got to be prepared for people to throw bottles at you." Keith Richards, never one to sugarcoat his opinions, was even blunter, calling Prince's act insulting to our audience. Years later, the incident is often framed as a turning point for Prince, who went on to become one of the most celebrated and influential artists of his generation. But at the time, it served as a harsh introduction to the sometimes hostile realities of the music industry. When Aerosmith embarked on their Get a Grip tour in 1993, they decided to take Megadeth along as their opening act, a pairing that, in hindsight, seems like a recipe for disaster. Aerosmith, known for their bluesy, swaggering rock, and Megadeth, pioneers of thrash metal, appealed to very different audiences. The result was a tour plagued by tension from the start. The primary source of friction was Megadeth frontman Dave Mustaine, who seemed to have little respect for Aerosmith. During one show, Mustaine reportedly made disparaging remarks about the band, calling them over the hill. Joe Perry, Aerosmith's guitarist, later recalled the incident in his memoir, writing, "We've always tried to have good relationships with other bands, but with Megadeth, it was just nasty from the start." The tension reached a breaking point when Aerosmith decided to cut Megadeth from the tour altogether. While Mustaine remained defiant, claiming that his band had been treated unfairly, the decision underscored the risks of pairing artists with such different styles and personalities. If there's one lesson to be gleaned from these tales of backstage drama, it's that the world of rock and roll is as much about personalities as it is about music. For all the power of a great riff or a soaring vocal, it's the human element, the egos, the insecurities, the clashing ideals that often drives the most compelling stories. And while these feuds may have been messy, they've also become part of the mythos, adding a layer of intrigue to the music we love. After all, what's rock and roll without a little chaos?